This episode is brought to you by the Project Manga Patreon, the best way for viewers to support the project and allow us a means to keep providing new and quality content to our subscribers. Go to patreon.com/projectmanga and find out more about the perks we have available to patrons, including early access to all of our content and exclusive videos like behind-the-scenes footage and additional manga reviews. That's patreon.com/projectmanga. And welcome back to One Shots. I'm Nox.
And I'm Mellow Yenis.
And we are talking about Ayashimon today. That is the new series by Kaku Yuji coming out of Weekly Shonen Jump. He's best known for Yujikaku, Hell's Paradise. And yeah, we're big fans. Can't wait to get into it. For those of you who don't know, this is One Shots. This is our now monthly-ish live manga podcast where we take a specific series, usually from Weekly Shonen Jump, choose a topic for it, and then break it down for about an hour or two with you guys here in the chat. Big shout out to everybody who pulled up today, by the way. This was like kind of last minute. It's kind of hard to schedule this show, you know, that far out in advance nowadays. So we'll do our best by, you know, tweeting and hitting you guys in the Discord and whatnot. So if you guys are new, join the Discord, follow us on Twitter. That's going to be where we get announcements for this show first. But talking about Ayashimon, can't wait to get into it. New series.
Love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Extremely excited. Mello, how do you feel today?
Okay, so Ayashimon really hits a lot of checkboxes for me because I love Yakuza stories. I love supernatural horror stories. I like stories where one of the main lines in the first chapters is being strong, useful, period.
Yeah.
Just like, yes, struggle emotionally.
Right.
You know, I think this is a really strong chapter. It's like 59 pages right off the bat. It's putting a lot of stuff that could be like a lot of like really flavorful, meaty concepts and like kind of like locations and textures and fights, and like the art style is really interesting. After the success of Jigoroku, I'm not too worried about like getting the early. I'm not too worried about like the early series acts that Shonen Jump has been kind of everyone's been kind of poking fun at for a while, because like a lot of these new series, they have to like dump all the stuff that they have first just to like, you know, make a good impression, make a splash. But this one, it gave me a big splash feel, but it didn't actually give me like a ton of concrete information. So like for me, I think that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Like if you're able to pace yourself, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I feel like Kaku Yuji, I don't know, man. It's always going to feel better as far as the survivability of a series goes in a magazine like Weekly Shonen Jump. It's always going to feel better if you have a mangaka that's coming from, you know, a place of experience and success in other areas of the magazine. We know that he was in the Jump Plus arm of Weekly Shonen Jump beforehand, and you have, you know, mangaka like Kishimoto and Shimabukuro and whatnot who kind of blew it. But I don't know, Kaku Yuji, the success of Jigo Karaku, and then they beeline him like directly to the mainline magazine, makes me feel really good about his plan for Ayashimon. So I don't know, I feel great about it. You literally never know with something like Weekly Shonen Jump though, because like you have things like Phantom Seer that got axed like out of nowhere when it didn't really feel like it should have been. You know what I mean? You can kind of like feel it coming inside of series like Samurai 8 and, you know, even Red Hood, you know what I mean? But shit like Last Sayuki and like Phantom Seer, I'm
Neru
excited.
Was surprising for me.
I didn't read Neru, but I don't know, it looked cool.
It had a good feel, really good art, and then it was like, oh hey, we're wrapping up. It's like, all right, you're wrapped up. Like, okay, fair.
Yeah.
Sorry you had to go, you know. But like, I thought it had potential.
Yeah, for sure. But Ayashimon feels really strong. It's got a very solid first chapter. Nymph444, welcome to the chat, by the way. Discord link isn't working. Sorry about that. I'll fix it. If you need it, you can go into the about section of the Twitch, and then there should be a link that works in there. Otherwise, you can get it from like the Linktree link, you know, or something like that I also posted. But But yeah, I don't know, man. First thing that really jumped out to me about Ayashimon is just these first two color pages. This first color page and then going into the
Oh
spread. It's just
yeah.
beautiful, dude. Kaku Yuji's color palette is so fire. The color story on the double spread is just like really visually appealing to me personally. I really like the
It's
combination of like
gorgeous.
warm and cool colors. It's got that like colored pencil, like almost pastel kind of like vibe to it, and I'm like a
Yeah.
big fan of that, right? Yeah.
I love like the blue oni. I love all these classical yokai. And like I thought that there was like the transition on page 1 where his like pupil starts to like twitch and
Bulge.
vibrate
Yeah, yeah,
into
yeah.
like two separate pupils.
Yeah.
I love body horror and stuff like that.
Oh
So like
yeah.
it's really interesting to me. I love the setting of the funeral. I like the nod to the Enma syndicate because Enma is the king of hell in
Yes, dude.
Japanese folklore. So I was like,
Yes.
ah, okay, all
Yeah.
right. So like they're gonna go heavy in the lore
Yeah, and I'm
for
super
old
excited for
school
that. Like,
stuff.
there's hella potential inside of this, and it's just like a really cool setting to have like a more modern, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
contemporary setting for your story, but then also lean into more like ancient, mythological kind of like back in the day concepts like
Mm-hmm.
yokai and shit like that. So that's just a really cool combination. I'm always gonna fuck with that. Yakuza gang shit is always tight. There's like super delinquent vibes, you know what I mean, going on inside of
Mm-hmm.
Maruo's character. So like that's really fucking cool too.
Not
Uh,
even by like choice, you know,
right.
it just like by circumstance. It's like, yeah, no, I just keep finding myself in here. Um, but like I like the combination of like yokai with yakuza stuff
Yeah.
because like the organized crime aspect seems to be like a little outdated. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like a lot of them like, hey, how does a yakuza truly function in the current world? Like they talk about that stuff in like My Hero Academia even, where the focus is not yakuza at all, and they still
Right.
talk touch upon that. So like I like the idea that like in Jujutsu Kaisen they're talking like, oh, in a modern world, what place does the supernatural have? So
Hmm.
I like that they're like taking two things that like are kind of like fading from prominence into like the regular mundane modern world and kind of combining the two to make them feel a little more fleshed out or a
Yeah.
little more solid like the yokai have kind of hidden within the yakuza or maybe the yakuza you know because like in a modern world where does the supernatural really exist? You don't see it most of the
Right.
time.
Right.
So I like that little touch there.
Yeah, and especially when we start getting into more on the conceptual side of things, you have this line of dialogue in the first chapter that talks about the feeding grounds for the Ayashimon. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That eat humans or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it lets you know right away that there's some kind of really shady deal that the human world has with the Ayashimon world that lets you know that if you walk into a certain area or something, it's cool for these monsters to come out and eat you because you wandered into the wrong spot. These are probably really low income areas. You know what I mean? Just areas where the kind of people that the rest of the world don't tend to care about as much. Tend to hang out. You know what I mean? So like that's really interesting to me too. If we're
Hmm.
going to delve deeper into that, Kaku Yuji isn't really afraid to touch on those. More darker, more
Unseemly.
macabre, yeah, kind of
Hmm.
areas of storytelling. So I'm really excited to see like how like the governmental situation is kind of working
Yeah.
inside of Ayashimon off of that line of dialogue. So that's really cool. Um,
Is there a spiritual government, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
like Yakuza function as a way to have sort of like legalized crime in a
hmm,
way that like they know that crime is always going to exist, and so
yeah,
by legalizing a small faction of it, you can kind of like weed out like weak startup black market entrepreneurs, right?
right, right.
And I think that's really interesting. So like I wonder is there a spiritual government in addition to the like the yokai like yakuza like
Yeah,
if yokai exist would then guardian spirits would things like okamis
right.
or like shinto spirits exist and would that be kind of the clean upper crust
Yeah,
kind of like spiritual community? Is there going to be something like that? Because I'd like to see that because so far like the part of the series is like being a misfit period, right?
yeah,
Like not fitting in and trying to find a place in the world where you actually function well.
right. It's a big question, because it's like whenever you have, a story that leans into concepts on the more religious or mythological side of things, there's always dichotomies inside of those. You have the
Hmm.
evil spirits, you have the good spirits. So if you're going to, lean into the darker aspect of it and give us monsters, yokai, cursed energy, negative things, you wonder, is there a positive, side to that coin that will be introduced, later in the series or anything like that. So that's always something that's in the back of my head whenever I see things like this. So that's something that's super interesting for the potential of Ayashimon. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We got a new goat on the scene, Maruo Kaido. Let's talk about the main character, bro. I fucking loved this initial
Yeah.
characterization for Maruo. I think that the manga protagonist goal is cool. You know what I mean? It's funny.
Yeah.
It seems metatextual. Just because we're manga readers, and it probably is meta. It
Hmm.
probably is meta on purpose in that way. But it's still actually a very realistic,
It's
and
clever.
relatable, goal for a manga protagonist. 'Cause
Young
it's like, I don't
kid.
know,
Yeah.
for a young kid, period. Think about yourself. Like me personally, I've wanted to be a superhero my entire life. I've wanted to be the main character of a comic
Hmm.
book. I feel like a lot of people have thought about that a
Absolutely.
million times. Everything that Maruo is saying throughout this first chapter resonated with me at some point in my childhood. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
some people were
mean,
kind of like, worried about that angle, you know what I mean? Worried
oh,
about that
well,
goal
I
or whatever
mean,
because it's, too too gaggy or too comedic or like too meta or something like that. It
I
almost
mean,
breaks immersion
people
for
are
them
motivated
almost.
by different kinds of things, and
Yeah.
uh, like Maru, I got into a lot of fights as a kid, and so
Hmm.
like I put a lot of like mental energy reading
Yeah.
and like trying to stay out of trouble, and like I'd fight and stuff, but like the heroes that I recognized were the ones that I read about, right? Like I
Right.
wanted to be, like the people that are like I read somewhere that like being a man is not about strength. It is about understanding that strength is a tool and how you use it and knowing when to use it and apply
Yes.
it is what really measures like the true value of a man. And that came from a comic book, and that has held lingered with me forever. So I
Yeah.
understand the idea of being like wanting to be a manga character. Like
Yeah.
I
You see
know
that in a
some of
lot
my
of shit.
friends.
Just what you said, like off
Yeah.
top, like I thought of Thor's from Vinland Saga, like right away.
Yes. Who is your enemy? You
Right.
have no enemies. A
Yeah, yeah,
true
yeah.
warrior doesn't have enemies.
Type shit.
Um, and then like one of my friends, they're literally like a bodybuilder. They're only doing it because they want to do stuff that their D&D character could have done, right? They like
Oh
playing
wow.
like super strong dudes. And it's like, yeah, I started throwing axes and working out because I wanted to do the cool D&D stuff. And
Yeah.
now it's
I want
just
to be
I'm like,
like
God,
these, buff
I'm just like,
niggas.
he's like just stone cold.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, go get it. Like, if that's your motivation, like some people are like, I mean, I want to be strong like Goku. All right, fair enough. Like,
Yeah,
be strong like
everyone said
Goku.
it.
Go. Yeah,
Literally everybody has said it. So I don't know. I don't really see that as a negative
yeah.
of inside of the character, or inside of the plot. I think that's really cool. I think that can go a really long way. I mean, and I don't know how often Yuji Kaku will like touch, or touch on that or
Hmm.
lean into the manga protagonist aspect, considering he already accomplished this goal of his in the first chapter of his series. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I don't know, how often we'll see that. We'll probably get references here and there. Like I just remembered the deuteragonist Urara, the little girl.
Yeah.
She hit him with the sit boy. And like instantly, I was like, Inuyasha, and this is
Yeah.
before. Yeah,
I love the references.
I think that was before the we got the line of dialogue that said he wanted to be a manga protagonist. So when I saw that at first, I was like, oh, okay, we might be leaning into something here. And then he just straight out comes with it. I want to be Kinnikuman. I want to be I want to be Goku. I want to be Jotaro. You know what I mean? And I was
I
like,
want
all
to be
right,
Kenshiro, Fist
yeah,
of the North Star.
right, yeah,
Like, and I love his motivation is that he was an abused, beaten child,
yeah,
and he's just like, I want to be strong as fuck, boy. I want to,
yeah.
I want to be able to beat up my dad,
Yeah,
and
that was really tough when
that was
I
heavy.
when
That
I
was
saw that. I
heavy.
was like, "Oh, the dad sucks." And it made that scene towards the end, when he's fighting all the Ayashimon, it made that slap a little bit harder for me because he's going into the father-son Kamehameha. You know what I mean? So like the father-son Kamehameha reference, knowing that he was abused as a child by his shitty dad, it kind of like, I don't know. It made that moment hit like that much harder for me, because it's like
Yeah.
Goku is my dad. You know what I mean? Like like all
Piccolo, number one
yeah, type
dad, you
shit,
know,
you know what I
like
mean? So I'm reading that and I'm like, man, that hits like really drastically coming out of the child abuse shit.
yeah, and like
Thanks,
I
Kai Stu.
like it
7 months, you're a champion. Love you, brother.
like I feel like it's so impactful, and like I'm waiting for, because I love that like he was strong enough to beat up his own dad, and it wasn't cathartic to him. It was disappointing, and he's just like never gotten any sort of like resolution, and he's hoping he can get it by fighting. That to me gives like huge like Chainsaw Man vibes, as well as the art. The
Sure.
art very much has that gritty Chainsaw Man vibe.
Yeah.
um I noticed like in the scenes with like when it covers like Kabukicho, and like with like some scenes of like the like alley
Yeah.
and like the schools and stuff, it has that kind of like art photorealism, photo turned photorealistic drawing art that I quite like,
Yeah.
because I love the contrast it brings, especially in like Don, where they're like, hey, there's the real world,
Yeah.
and then there's this extra stuff
Right.
that we need to worry about. So I like the contrast a lot.
We were just talking
Um,
about that in our special grade coverage the other day on
mhm.
about Yukinobu Tatsu's art style kind of leaning into that area of manga creation where you utilize photographs. In the most recent chapter of Don, you get like these scenes of them going into the country and like going into this town and walking upstairs, and everything looks really photorealistic inside of the landscape art. And we were talking about the techniques that manga could use, like Inio Asano and shit, where they take the picture, add blacks and other kinds of sketchy details that make it feel a lot more analog, and then scan that into their Wacom, and then add lower the saturation, take away all the color, make it look like a fucking manga panel as best as they can. So where you ask the question like, is this a picture or is this a comic book? You know what I mean? So I really love that detail. And mangaka like really we just made the comparison to Yukinobu
Mhm.
Tatsu and Inio Asano, but I feel like what you're talking about right now is kind of seen as far as like the contrast between really gritty sketchy line work and like really refined, you know what I mean, like artwork, you know what I mean, like that is seen inside of mangaka like Yuji Kaku. You get that a lot, for example, since we're talking about him. Gege Akutami is really good at that. Their landscape
Mm.
art is like wildly different than their character art, you know what I mean? So whenever you have that kind of aesthetic, that kind of vibe in the story, it does make it feel like there is a little bit more stress in the world that you're reading about, which like works towards
Mhm.
like stakes almost on an aesthetic side of thing, on the aesthetic side of things. Potentially it's
Yeah,
like if
there's
I
like a
feel like I'm in yeah
dissonance.
if I feel like I'm in a darker world, I'm like just worried about things that could happen. So inside of a shonen story, I feel like that's really important, considering like where we are in like contemporary shonen storytelling, where things are a lot darker nowadays.
I think that's important because the Yakuza have a term. I can't remember what the exact phrasing is, but it basically called like dead world time, where they're like, "Hey, we're going in a place of no point of no return. This is our world. This is the world of the dead. Like this is the world of murder and crime and other stuff. Like like there's threats to like civilians. Like, hey man, do you really want to like enter our world? Like, we'll go there,
Yeah.
but you won't like it." And so I think it's really interesting to see kind of that along with the dissonance.
Yeah.
Um, I really like Urara's like the art character design is really cool. Like Uwan
Yeah.
is
Super
like
memorable character
obviously a
designs.
scrub,
Yeah.
but
Looks so
he's
cool.
so cool.
Yeah, yeah. He's
Like
got that like fucking like Casanova Frankenstein, like mystery men, like
yeah,
kind of like vibe to
yes,
his drip and whatnot. So like right
he
away I
totally has
was
the
like,
mystery man.
yeah, I was like, this dude is getting clapped like right away, obviously, but like I'm still just gonna remember this first chapter just because like these character designs and these Ayashimon and this first impression of them, this first meeting of them is just so memorable that like I'm just so excited for future characters in the series if this is what we get in chapter one, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that like I was looking at the art for like Uwan when he transforms and stuff, and I was also looking at like Uwan as a yokai.
Hmm.
He's a classic yokai. He's actually like a small bit. He's only mentioned once with like very little description,
Hmm.
in like classical Japanese art. Basically, he's this guy that like would cry Uwan repeatedly and keep a dude awake.
Oh wow.
And like the guy couldn't sleep. He's like, well, there's no one that lives in the house. None of the neighbors heard it, and it's just because like doing this or that, and it was this like guy with blackened teeth, which is
Mm,
something typically that like the like male Japanese nobility or male warriors of the time
yeah,
would do. So it was a yokai coming from that particular class, and then which kind of fits with the Yakuza thing, being a warrior, being a
absolutely.
soldier in a gang kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And then I like the blackened teeth. Um, I thought it was really interesting. I was, because the reason I looked up Uwan, period, was because Maruo straight up hit him so hard, he Sonic the Hedgehog, like, he beat the coins out of that dude. He took his head off.
He knocked the
Like,
rings out that
he knocked the
motherfucker.
rings out of him.
Yeah, dude, that was amazing. I love that scene. Like right after he knocks that dude's head off, and then like everyone kind of tried. They're like, "Holy shit, this dude's a monster! Get him!" You know what I mean? And they all kind of try to jump on him, and he still just has a smile on his face, beating the brakes off of all of these Ayashimon. I just couldn't help
Mhm.
but hear like I don't know why, but I heard like percussion instruments, like symphonies, like you know what I mean, like some Beethoven shit, like in the anime. I'm picturing in the adaptation, like
The tears flying off his face.
yeah, like
Ah,
slow mo in the punches with like the
yeah.
percussion instruments
Pum,
and shit.
pum,
Like I just
pum,
felt that in that
da.
scene. It's like I can't wait to like yeah, with like hymnal like orchestras and shit in the background. You know what I'm saying? Like that
Yeah.
shit would be so
I
raw if they
love
did it
I
like
would
that.
love to see this animated.
Yeah, dude.
Straight up, like the choreography, it's a little sketchy, but like at the same time, it conveys a lot of motion
Yeah,
in like that things. Like I could see it gives a lot of room for animators to either like speed up or slow down or flex or whatever what's
yeah,
needed, right?
yeah.
But it still conveys a lot of stuff with like a minimum amount of movement. Um, Man, I was looking up like Maruo, and like how he was like not really satisfied with things, but
Yeah,
he's like given a chance. He's given his dreams on a silver platter.
yeah.
Um, Kaido means like roadway or highway,
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
it yep. It also means like the sea in like kind of popular culture. It's almost known as like an Aries type name, like you're aggressive, you're warlike, that kind of thing. And then Maruo means circle.
Oh, okay.
So what if that's why I think that his light, like if that's foreshadowing, he's in the same his road is a circle. He's just going round and round in circles. He's not actually learning anything. Um,
Hmm.
which kind of
Wow.
tracks
Damn.
because like it tracks, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
because it's like
Because like
if
he
Kaido is the
destroys the
highway,
gym.
yeah, if Kaido's the
Yeah.
highway and then like Maruo is the circle, and he's just kind of like repeating like the same kind of like life, trying to find like different, results or whatever to
Yeah.
whatever it is he's looking for, and he's kind of just spinning his wheels in that way. But then the highway kind of contrasts that as like you have the direction now at the end of the chapter, like you know where to go. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
towards the Yakuza, towards your, to give your life meaning or whatever. I don't know. But that's just a
Yeah.
cool thing to think about.
I just think it's really interesting because, like, he's going to all these places. He's like, I'm going to a gym. I'm super strong. And he's like, no, you broke all our equipment. You're too strong. Go to the sumo place. You knocked out all these motherfuckers. Get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go to a bakery. Peaceful thing. You just crushed all the bread by touching it. I don't.
Yeah.
Stop. Stir.
Yeah.
Stop. You're going to have to pay for that. Like,
Yeah. And then he's
so,
like
like,
he runs into like the thugs or whatever, that
yeah.
are doing whatever.
Delinquents.
Yeah, the delinquents, and he like they're punching him or whatever, and he's just like not being phased, and he's like, man, this shit. I don't even remember what he says, but he puts his
No,
hand on his
he's
shoulder and
like,
like,
I'm jealous. You guys have jobs, and he
yeah,
like
yeah,
touches him, breaks the collarbone. He's like, oh, why'd you
yeah.
do that? And he's like, I barely touched you, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
seeing Page turning into that, like,
uh,
or just getting to that panel and just seeing like the X-ray of the clavicle bone like breaking, just like holy fuck.
fatality.
Yeah, and he punches the fuck out this dude who like is chasing Urara, and he goes flying so
Yeah,
high that he's like hung up on
in
a
a
fucking
tree.
branch like laundry with like blood coming out of like every hole in his face, and I was like, oh yeah, here we
He
go,
got
Kaku.
folded
Yeah, I was like, let's
backward.
go. Yeah, I was like, fuck yeah. And you know what?
Man,
Whatever, man. It's One Punch Man. The One Punch Man vibes are undeniable. But
absolutely.
but Kaku Yuji doesn't seem like the kind of mangaka that would lean into, that inspiration to a cringy degree. I don't know. Like there's already like big
Yeah,
differences, you know what I mean? Like when you get the line of dialogue from Maruo that like where he questions strength and like whether it's pointless or not, like that feels like
yeah,
Saitama, but like Saitama, you know what I mean? I don't know.
is
it's
haunted and unhaunted by his
yeah,
stuff.
it's obviously a lot more exaggerated inside of like One Punch Man because his strength is just like that wild, you know what I mean? So he's been depressed for a while because he is a superhero in the world and he is fighting villains, mad scientists, giant monsters like constantly. Maruo's only really interacting with like regular people when this strength comes into
Yeah,
play. So like him being like, thrown into this new world of supernatural monsters, I don't
just
think that
punch it.
will. I think he'll struggle like pretty often.
I
You know what I
think
mean?
he
Like
will.
yeah, like these guys that are here, like this Uwan kid and like all of his people or whatever. It's like yeah, they're Ayashimon and like yeah, it's like crazy to think about a regular human doing like a bunch of push-ups and whatever kind of other like manga workouts
Punching
that he
rocks
did to
until it
like
breaks.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like crazy to think about him beating dyed in the wool Yakuza Ayashimon like in the first chapter just
Yeah.
off of that strength alone. But I mean, like if these guys are scrubs and they go into the real world, obviously the Ayashimon are going to keep getting stronger. I don't think it'll be a Martial One Punch Man kind of situation. I think there is an
No.
energy system that he could potentially tap into later in the future. If not, there's definitely all kinds of Ayashimon Yakuza training that he could potentially go through, maybe not so much as like strength training or just like physical attribute training, but just like strategic Ayashimon like fighting training for anyone that might have, abilities that
Yeah.
you can't just punch through. You know what I mean? So like I'm excited to see how that
Yeah.
goes. I
I
think it'll
want
be
him to
different
have
enough.
like I want him to have face fist wraps with like Shinto talismans made out of Shinto talismans and have fist wraps made out of that stuff and he's just like I punch you it's gonna burn you a little bit like let's go.
Bro, that would be so cold. Oh my god, you give him like Muay Thai ropes that are like
Yes,
dipped
because
in
he's
some
oriental
kind of
and he's
fucking
yeah.
yeah, yeah, dude, that'd be so dope. What the fuck?
And he's just like, oh wait, yeah, and I got them soaked up with like holy water, so like they're kind of wet. They're like
Yeah.
because like like if you have like wet like bandages, it
Mhm.
adds weight to the
Right.
thing and helps displace like force while still adding weight. So like it's actually like a dangerous thing
Yeah.
people have done. Um, I looked up Urarara's name. It means serene and beautiful, and like based off the crescent hair, she definitely seems like a moon-based yokai
Oh, sure.
to me. Like she seems to be like a moon-based thing,
I
which
like
makes me
that.
wonder if she is like a wolf or a fox,
Yeah.
or maybe like some like death's head moth kind of like yokai.
She
I'm kind of
definitely
curious.
has like the longer canines, you know what I mean? And that's not
Mhm.
just because she's an Ayashimon, because if you look at, Uwan, the first time he kind of transforms, he has
He's
like,
got the human teeth.
yeah,
He's
he's
got his
got
edge
like straight
pincers.
herbivore shit. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't fucking know. I think the wolf or fox angle is brilliant, dude. Her hair is
Mhm.
a crescent moon. I didn't even notice that.
Especially if you look at her intro at 12 and 13 on page 12, there is like those little foxfire patterns on her
Oh
kimono.
shit.
So for me,
Yeah.
she seems like a nine-tailed fox.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
Let's
and
go.
like, and the thing is, like, the Sukkozuri cup.
Mhm.
It's a thing that's used in Yakuza. It's like the boss gives the underling a cup. The guy gives it back. They drink. They exchange cups. It's a pledge of like loyalty. It
Yeah.
symbolizes forming a family because it's based off old Shinto wedding traditions where
Oh.
the husband and wife traded off and they take sips until each of them have taken 9 sips, which is supposed to be like numerologically like very powerful and superstitiously fortifying.
Mhm.
So it makes me wonder if that might be a thing because there's other series where like kitsune end up marrying humans, right? Like that's
Right.
a story that happens all the time. Is there going to be a point where like they like Rosario Vampiro some shit and like Maruo is like genuinely cares for Urarara, and they're like, this is a political marriage or something like some
Yeah.
shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do, circling back, I do
Yeah.
agree with you that he's gonna get the break speed off him eventually, right?
Yeah,
Like
you know what I mean?
you
Like
can't have
yeah.
a constant like I'm gonna win every time. It's gonna be boring because like even
Right.
like because I feel like the yokai he's fighting now are kind of scrubby, right?
Right.
Like like oh no, it's the broom guy. It's the sad bog witch. Like
Yeah.
Uwan himself was like a no-name yokai with like the world's smallest Wikipedia entry. Like
Yeah.
he look like his art looks like a testicle with face. Just a wrinkled little sack of a man.
And I bet you Kaku Yuji is like so aware of like the history of, shonen storytelling, especially what's going on like in the magazine
Mhm,
like right now. It's like I'm sure he wouldn't want to just give us another mash or give us, another
mhm.
Saitama. He can use those in like even if he did have the idea for Ayashimon like before Mashal came out or something like that,
He
I'm
could
sure
adapt.
like he would tweak it or something like that to make sure that it
Yeah.
wasn't too reminiscent. I don't fucking know. And even if he didn't want to do that and was just like, fuck it, we got another mash here. I'm still probably going to enjoy this more than Mashal at the end of the day. So,
I think
we
it's
just
gonna be
have to
much
hope
darker.
Japanese people fuck with it, like, yeah,
Yes, I really hope they do. It like this series genuinely got me really excited.
yeah.
Like I was just like, man, this is it. Um there's and like I think how do I phrase this?
Mm,
I like Maru's expression on page 39.
okay.
He's like, no matter who I fought, it was never a real fight.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun at all. And it's like I like it reminded me of like Crows a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
We talked about that delinquent manga we were reading. And I was like, it reminded me of Crows where like some of the characters had just like dead eyes because they just weren't really satisfied with
Yeah.
what they were doing.
They
Like,
weren't really
hey, I'm gonna
living.
fight.
Yeah.
It's like this is our life. This is what we're doing. This is what we're stuck with. But it's not what I want to do.
Right.
Like if I could fight someone and be motivated to do that, I would find joy,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And like it's just like anything you do.
Yeah.
Like I like taking care of people, and that's why I work in restaurants. But
Mm.
like there's times where I find joy in it, and there's times that I don't, and I'm like, all right, cool.
Like anything.
Exactly.
But
Um,
I don't know. I just appreciate Maruo in this flashback that you brought up on 38 and 39 because it's like you've been abused, you know what I mean, like by your shitty dad. You kind of escape into comic books and idolize, these main characters like Jotaro, Kinnikuman, Goku, you know what I mean, Kenshiro, and they live these lives that are so separate from the real world, but like you don't realize that when you're a kid. You think you can be a
no,
dinosaur when you grow up. You think you
I
can
think I
be
could be a
y-
Power Ranger.
yeah, like whatever the fuck you say, you know what I mean? But then when you get hit with reality and you realize like how the world really works, you acquire all of this strength in this supernatural way. Obviously, since it's a comic book, you got to suspend disbelief a little bit when it comes to that. But it is a very relatable feeling where he's like, man, it wasn't fun at all because these people are so much weaker than me, and I know that. Like these aren't the kind of enemies that Kenshiro was fighting, that Goku was fighting. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm not getting the same kind of satisfaction that I thought I would now that I'm old enough to start fighting. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So when he runs into the Yakuza and they're wildly powerful and they're pieces of shit. No one will care if they're gone. They literally kill people. This is the exact kind of opponent that he was looking for, obviously, because they're fucking
Yeah.
supernatural manga villains. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was really cool how it kind of showed that area of his psychology in regard to that, because like if you look at the real world, it's like if somebody worked out to the degree of Maruo and suddenly got superhuman strength and all of it, like imagine what your average like American, for example, would
You'd
do
be
with that.
upset.
Yeah, like you would, no, you would fuck you would they would go fucking crazy with that. Like look at what happens when
Yeah.
you like work somewhere and then like the mousy coworker suddenly gets a promotion and they're your boss now. They wild the fuck out when they get a little bit of fucking
Mhm.
power. You know what I mean? Like look at police in
Yeah.
America. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
my god.
yeah, like
Honestly,
we
I
can get
wanted to
into
be
it.
one of them
But
as
we
a
don't have
kid, and I
to.
got
Yeah,
super disillusioned.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, straight up,
like,
because it just seems like a powerful role, and you think that
mhm,
on paper there's a benevolent altruistic kind of tone to it. You know what I mean? So
mhm.
and then it's not until you grow up and realize that the world is shitty and that there's
Yeah.
shitty people in it, and you
Bad
go, okay,
people
so
can apply to good jobs.
yeah, this is what happens, when you get a little bit of power. So Maruo getting that power and going like, this isn't fun to beat up the weak. It's just
That's a
cool. Like
very heroic trait.
yeah, and like
I
you see it all
like
the
that he
time.
absorbed that lesson.
You see it all the time in Japanese fiction and even in Western fiction too. You know what I mean? But it's just like so cool how it's displayed in manga. I don't know. It's just something about the vibe that's just
It
different.
I
Yeah.
think that it was introduced in a way that like because like Maruo was abused, he understands because he suffered that it's not fun to pick on
Right.
the weak. You know, he just like, hey man, I don't want to do that to other people, and like Kenshiro wouldn't do that. Like, so
Yeah.
like, I really appreciate that. The line that stuck out to me from Maruo was not the I'm a plain old human kid who starved for a good old fashioned fight. The part that really stuck out to me was stop, just stop. I can't take it. Don't get my hopes up any higher.
Yeah.
This kid, he's like, and then after he like smokes all those demons, he's just like, hey, I realize this is the only way I can live. And Urara's like, oh, I got this guy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got this guy.
Yeah, dude.
Because like she talks a lot of shit. She's kind of manipulative. Like I wonder how trustworthy she is. I'd like to see
Yeah.
how that goes because she even does this thing where like she talks crap about him. He's like, ah, what a waste. You're ugly mug. That stupidity seeping from your every word. You'd make a perfect Yakuza. And he's just
Yeah.
like, "Gah," and she's like, yeah, and he's like, all right, you're legit.
You're
You're not
legit.
actually afraid of me.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
those
love her
intentions
character,
kind of
man.
like
Yuji
that.
Kaku kind of like snaps with these shady, underhanded, like, independent female characters, you know what I mean? Like if you go into like
Ambiguous
yeah,
characters.
yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? And it's just I don't know, man. I'm a sucker for like this trope or archetype of like, one just characters being more than what they seem, but like especially in like little girl characters that are actually really strong. You know what I mean? Like she could be really strong and have like a completely different personality than this, but she has a very
Mhm.
dominating, very sarcastic, very confident, personality to her. You know what I mean? So she feels like the gang boss that she says that she is, even though we
Yeah.
barely like have really interacted with her too much. She just has that on-screen presence that lets you know that she's
Yes.
a big deal, and I just love that inside of really small packages. You know what I mean?
She's got a really good like bad bitch energy.
Yeah. Reminds me of Liana Mormont from Game of Thrones. I think that's her name. I don't know if it's Liana, but like
Yeah.
the little girl Mormont north of the wall. You know what I mean?
Where
That's
she's
like with
like,
the
hey
Night's Watch.
motherfuckers, like let's
Yeah,
do this thing.
yeah,
Yeah, I like that. It reminds me of some of the people that I know like in the service industry that like are women who are in like working hard in kind of like a cutthroat managerial like section of like restauranteering,
yeah,
and they have to do so much to like like to earn their place and carve out their place and like solidify their grip
yeah,
on any restaurant that they like become managers or general managers of, because it's like a male dominated thing.
yeah.
And like I can see that in Urarara, like where she's like,
Absolutely.
oh yeah, you ain't shit. Like she's
Yeah,
talking to us like, oh, you're gonna threaten me, tell me you're gonna chop me up into pieces, burn the garbage, eat the garbage. Well, that's just weak. Come
yeah,
on, you think I
yeah,
haven't heard that before?
yeah.
You know, cliff note, spark note using having motherfuckers
Yeah, dude, she was really laying into him. She got him all like, got him all
riled.
got him all riled up, which I'm sure is like what she was trying to do so that she could test the strength of Maruo in relation to
Mhm.
Ayashimon. So like all of this just feels really good, man. I love how it like eventually turns into a one-on-one because like whenever you are shonen storytelling kind of like historically has been all about the 1v1 confrontation
Mhm.
between built up characters, you know what I mean, or built up villains, you know what I mean. So the way that you can organically create that situation without feeling like it's ham-fisted just because it's a shonen plot
Mhm.
feels really good, you know what I mean. And you can eventually come down and just say whatever, they made that up just so that we could have 1v1 duels in the series all the time, and that's
But I'd
fine. That's
rather
but
have that.
it feels organic. They made it a tradition inside of the Yakuza. You know what I mean? Like they have
Yes.
fucking like drums that they pull out, horns that they pull out. They line up in like a specific way. It's like a whole ritual. You know what I mean? Like there's a little
Yeah.
bit more consideration than just, hey, there's an army of enemies in front of me. You guys should all just beat my ass.
1v1.
But like 1v1 question mark, and it's like, okay, why?
Yeah.
Like you're dumb. You know what I mean? Like this dude just took
Mhm.
your fucking boss's head off in one shot, and then they all jumped him or whatever. But like you get what I
I
mean.
think I like that they're like, what do we do? And then Maruo is just like, take me all on, and then they join in into
Yeah,
like this free for all slugfest.
yeah, that's
Like
right.
they don't even they're like, do we do another 1v1? Like
Yeah,
having a vote, like, what do we do? Do we do another 1v1? And he's like,
yeah.
no, you all come and meet once, and they're like, all right, well, let's get
Yeah, and that shit is so funny to me, like earlier in the chapter, now that I just remembered it, after he fucking crushed that dude and sent him flying into the tree. It's like you've never seen a human being take that kind of damage before. But
they thought
Goon
he was a teammate.
Yeah, like no, on like 14 and 15 when he's like talking to, you know, the regular like human douchebags that are like, you know, running
Yeah.
up on Urara. He pulls up and just one shots the dude, sends him flying into the tree, and then all of these regular degular goons are like, "You done it now, kid. Get him." And it's like, "What?" Like, no way. No way. If I saw somebody get uppercutted into the fucking sky with like 5 seconds of
I
hang
don't want no
time,
trouble.
I'm
I
gone
don't want
before
no
that
trouble.
motherfucker hits the tree. Cloud of smoke, Looney Tunes, where'd Bugs Bunny go type shit. No, I'm out of there.
Roadrunner gone.
Yeah. Like, nah, dog, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Look at this idiot. Now you done it, kid. Like, you just look so
Oh
stupid
man,
to me.
I feel like those guys are still like yokai, you know? Like they're just
Oh,
low level yokai that haven't transformed because they're still hanging out with Uwan. He's like, hey, let him go. Like I got the scent. Don't worry, we
you're
got
talking
this.
about 14 and I'm talking about page 14 and 15.
Yeah, yeah.
You're saying that these guys, that these
Because they're the ones
oh,
chasing
they
Ram.
were the ones that were chasing her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
But
Yeah, my
still,
bad. My bad, my
like
bad.
I like that they're like because like the regular delinquent kids are like, I'm gone,
Yeah.
I'm out. Like I wouldn't have been around like, what's going on? And like a dude that has like a giant super denture
Yeah.
like a Geiger-esque face. What you looking at, punk? This ain't a free show. I'd be gone before that point. I'd
Yeah.
be gone before
Yeah.
that point. Oh,
Yeah.
Yakuza, and that guy just punched a Yakuza into the air, like into the air.
Into the fucking air, bro.
You made
Like,
him double jump
right.
manually.
Yeah. We
Like
need
I'm
the
out.
fucking NBA Jam commentators like, Booyaka! Look at that hang time.
Oh no, you went so far. Robert Drydeck is going to comment to you on season umpteen of Wrecked.
You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. Type shit.
Dude, I love when they're like, we thought you were one of us, and everyone's just on the wall. Like, I
Dude,
love the
that page turn
lyrics
was
mess with that.
drastic, son.
It was so cool.
I'm so glad I read that on my phone and not like on my computer on the Viz site where like it gives you like 2 pages at once. Like, you know, I mean, it's a page turn anyway. I guess it's the first page on
Yeah,
the double
but
spread,
it's a
but
good
still, like, I
one.
just love reading Weekly Shonen Jump manga like on the phone app just because I need that
Hmm.
page turn factor. Like, but
It
yeah, no,
hit.
that
It
was
hit really
insane.
hard.
I love that
Oh,
perspective. They're all just chilling on the side of the wall. Like, I love like, you know, that kind of ninja shit. You know what I mean? I guess is what I'll call it. You know what I mean? Like climbing on walls, like all like posted up, like in fucking rows, like on a vertical
mhm.
fucking space. Like that's so fire.
It reminds me of a lot of other supernatural things because there's even like there's a book called Red Leopard Black Wolf that
Okay.
I was reading for a while, and they had these demons that could only they would chase you till the end of days, but they would only appear on the ceilings of buildings. So
Mm.
basically, they would hunt you for as long as you were in a building, and they would jump off the ceiling and stab at you, and then their gravity would pull them back to the ceiling. And the guy was
Oh
just like, "Yep,
shit.
I've been exiled from civilization. I'm just camping out forever now." Like, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, but like that's such a trope in fantasy that I love. I
Yeah.
love the creepy gravity stuff.
Right.
Um, and I think it's really interesting that they used Kabukicho as like the designated like demon Ayashimon kind of like Yakuza zone because it's the classic Tokyo red light district.
Mm.
Um, and it has like the major Shinto things at like the first gate. Um, and it's called the sleepless town,
Hmm.
and like we were talking about like Kenjaku from Jujutsu was like
Right.
the realm between the waking world and the dreaming world is a curse. So having a place called the sleepless realm, and like it's the red light district, and it has a bunch of those red lanterns and neon lights, and like lanterns in Japanese folklore represents light, warmth, and protection from evil,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think that's really, really quite cool. I kind of want to see Maruo kind of fall for the Botakuri form of crime, where in in that area you go in, you get like cheap drinks, and then they bait and switch and like hit you with like a billion hidden fees, and they're
Oh
like, "Hey
shit.
man, you gotta pay up. You
Yeah.
You got a sitting fee, you got a pooping fee, you used our bathroom, that toilet paper is like $500 per
You
square.
breathe a little
You
bit
look
too
at
much of
this.
this air we got in here.
That girl's perfume is, there ain't no free smells. We ain't a Jimmy John. That girl's perfume's expensive. Like,
Yeah, dude, I
like,
love
I want to
that. I
see that
love
kind
that
of
in like
thing.
casino movies and shit, you know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
like,
I
just
want to
like
see Maruo
gangster
just
shit.
wreck that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
wreck that. That'd be so funny.
That's
Uh,
hilarious.
and it's a really cool place because there is the Hanazono Shrine in Kabukicho, which is like a 17th century kind of like temple. So I think of it interesting. And they have Toho Cinemas, like a classic
Mm,
movie place with the giant Godzilla statue. Like I think Maruo is gonna watch a bunch of movies now that he has movie like times and like kind of like touch on that because he seems really invested in media
right.
as like beyond fighting, his
Yeah.
like one solace is media.
Yeah, we might see him like start reading a bunch of fucking like Yakuza delinquent manga in in the
He's like, I don't
story.
know how to act in this. How
Yeah,
do I act?
yeah.
Well, I'll just
Something like that.
I
Or watch a bunch of Scorsese flicks or some shit, or whoever the
yeah.
Japanese Scorsese is, if there is one.
Turns out he watches Way of the House Husband first, and he's like, "I got you this. What the f- is this? Urara, like gift?" Like,
Holy shit. Oh my god,
no.
I'm just now noticing Worst Gen gifted tier 1 sub to TNA Creme? Tina Creme? Not sure how to say that, but thank you, Worst Gen, for the gift sub. Appreciate y'all.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, hell yeah. Whole lot of gang shit, man.
Ah, man, this has been like a very satisfying first chapter. So
Yeah,
like,
like
I
one of the best first chapters that
really want to see
I've
that kind of
seen
thing.
in Jump in a while. Absolutely. I think the last time that I liked a first chapter this much was, I don't know, Jujutsu
Chainsaw
Kaisen.
Man for me.
Jujutsu Kaisen. I didn't like Chainsaw Man until like chapter 30. I'm gonna keep it a stack with
That's
you.
fair.
Yeah, it took me a while to really appreciate it, but now it's one of my favorites. But as far as first chapters go, like Jujutsu's was really good. The last Sayuki's was really good, even though it got axed. Doctor Stone first chapter is incredible.
Oh,
Just like
Doctor
in the
Stone
last
was a
like 5-ish
fantastic
years or
first
whatever. Yeah,
chapter.
I'm trying to think about like like recent times. Like yeah, this one
Series
is
that
standing
really
out.
captivated me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And like he already had a completed series with Hell's Paradise, so like having that under your belt can do wonders for your like confidence. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, I like it. The guy's flexing.
He is. And I don't know, man. I'm just happy for Kaku Yuji that he came out with a new story right away. Because like whenever a series finishes from a mangaka that like really enjoyed, you know what I mean? Like you wonder like, are they coming back? If so, when? You know what I mean? Like, do they have
Mhm.
anything else like, in the kitchen that they're cooking up? And when are they going to want to release that? Jigo Kuraku ended like less than a year ago, I want to say. You know what I mean? So it's like the
Yeah.
fact that he's just ready to go out the gate. I'm in Jump now, the main magazine with a new book. Like I'm so excited for Kaku Yuji and like just so proud
Yes.
of the content that he's kind of given us, so far. Because it is a very competitive market
It's
on
so
on
competitive.
this side
Cutthroat.
of manga magazines, you know what I mean? So he seems very confident. I don't know the guy, but just like through his work I can just feel like, big dude on campus. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to show y'all how to do this. You know what I'm
Story
saying?
with a swagger. Like
Yeah,
I love that he's doing so many different things within a single chapter and like adding nuance to what would be a lot of nuance to
hmm
what would be a very one-dimensional shonen protagonist.
right.
And I'm just like, all right, if you can do that in one chapter and like make me deeply sympathize with Maruo, I
Yeah,
can't wait to see what else you bring out because you've only focused on one character, period.
right. Yeah,
Oh
Spy
man.
Family was a strong first chapter. Dandadan and Rage
Oh.
Reject had really good first
Mhm.
chapters. Absolutely. I was just thinking, inside of Weekly Shonen Jump specifically.
Ah,
But
yes, yes,
yeah,
yes,
those are
yes.
all brilliant, brilliant first chapters. Absolutely, you guys. But
Man,
yeah, man, I don't know. Predictions as far as like the future of the series goes, it's really hard to tell. Yuji Kaku can
this
literally
early.
do anything because it's only like the first chapter or whatever. But I feel like we got some solid evidence for, some future plot points, like energy system stuff, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
is definitely going to be a thing. Whether that is like a Nen type of of system where like everything kind of has it and you just have to learn how to tap into it. I don't know if it's something like that. I don't know if it's like an indoctrinated, kind of power that you're almost kind of blessed with by somebody else with the power. I don't know if there's like a ritual or something that allows you to ascend to like a new state of something. I don't know if Maruo will even need to tap into an energy system if they just give
Yeah.
him gadgets, to like yokai, like you were talking about, like fucking
Oh, the
you know
talisman wraps? Yeah.
talisman wraps and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like he has like really wild physical strength. So even if we don't see a power system kind of explored in Maruo's character specifically, I doubt Yuji Kaku would need to give him one if that was his plan, and he can just as easily and effectively give us that information through supporting
Mhm.
characters and whatnot, and that would be totally fine. Honestly, I think that would be a really cool juxtaposition to Maruo if he was, entirely powerless in that way. So I'm really excited for the future of just power and fights in this series since it's set up so well for them.
I'm personally waiting for the moment where he runs into a yokai that he can't just beat the brakes off of,
Yeah.
and it's like this very patronizing um yokai that calls him son.
Oh
Like
boy.
I'm just waiting for that because like in Hell's Paradise
Oh,
the guy did not shy away from trauma. He
right.
did not shy away from characters struggling with their own personal problems and
Yeah.
like having to overcome them or succumbing to them and like failing horribly and then having to rebuild after that.
Right.
um I'm kind of expecting that. Part of me predicts that like Urara is going to like use something and like maybe like mildly curse him
Mm-hmm.
to like give him cursed energy, right? Like I'm gonna curse you. You're gonna have
Hey.
strength, but you can't do certain things while you're cursed. Like
Oh
he
dang.
might lose the ability to count or something.
Right, right.
Like do something. It's like, hey, you can't count, or maybe you lose your composure. So like maybe he's like goes full blue block, starts drooling, and like goes into a berserker frenzy
Yeah.
until the curse goes away. So I wonder if they do kind of that. Like I like the idea of curses as doping to like
Ooh.
increase his strength,
Yeah.
so that like it hurts him, but
There's
like he
always a detriment or a caveat, but you always get
yes,
some kind of,
I would
in the
love to see
moment
that kind of
boost.
power up.
I
To
mean,
be honest.
Kaku Yuji knows what he's doing with power systems. Like if you go into
Mhm.
Jigo Karaku, like Tao was very deep. It was a very profound energy system, compared to a lot of other ones. You know what I mean in the magazine. So like he definitely got it where it counts there. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely not worried about power or energy inside of Ayashimon just because of how well it was handled in Jigo Karaku. And Yuji Kaku is like a master of research and like references
So
and
good.
like whatever he's doing, he's putting his back into it in like every area of his storytelling. The writing is always especially like inside of Jigo Karaku, the writing was always profound and like poetic and and things like that. So inside of the research that he does for his concepts, that's all like up to the same standard of his writing and even his art. You know what I mean? So when he's firing on all cylinders like that, there's not a whole lot to be worried about. You know what I mean? So I'm excited as fuck,
Yeah.
man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you have any other like predictions for the future of the series? Because I feel like that's like kind of like the last area. I feel like we
Honestly, the
touched on
sun
pretty much
thing is
everything.
like the only thing that I can firmly feel like would happen
What is
because
it?
it makes sense. The yokai that calls him son, that is like an
Oh
insurmountable
yeah, 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 yeah.
obstacle until he gets stronger.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
because he doesn't have a challenge, that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, we have to have, just to
A
tie it
parallel.
back to, his childhood, absolutely. We have to encounter a yokai that is reminiscent of his father. That would be huge for growth and huge for
Mhm.
character writing and things like that for Maruo. I feel like you have to kind of dive into those kind of things when you have, a main character that's overpowered right out of the gate. There has to be some kind of emotional resonance that kind of like permeates throughout the series while they're doing wildly OP physical things, you know what I mean? So just to kind of give it that balance and just like ground it back so you don't have to suspend too much disbelief.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm really excited about that. I know Yujikaku is gonna snap when it comes to Maruo's character. Like Gabi Maru is like one of my all-time favorite main characters inside of the demographic. So I'm just not worried at all when it comes to that. And I love
No.
your idea about the yokai that calls him son. Like that would be so drastic in the
That'd be
narrative.
so painful, and I
Yeah.
can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
Grade A suffering.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Ayashimon
Yeah.
coming soon. Tomorrow.
Yeah,
They got chapter
tomorrow.
2.
Yeah,
So check it
tomorrow.
out. If we sold you on this, binge it today. Check it out the next chapter tomorrow,
Yeah,
please.
straight up. Man, I'm like already when I read the first chapter, like I finished it and I was like, I wonder how soon it's gonna be until we get like raws and like leaks and like spoilers and like early chapters for Ayashimon. I'm like so like impatient like when it comes to that kind of shit, and especially when like one is like this promising. But yeah, new chapter tomorrow. Can't wait for it. I'll give this first chapter a solid 8 out of 10. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
I think that's pretty good.
yeah,
I feel like I'm there too because
yeah.
like I it's I don't know if I can give a 10 out of 10
Yeah.
because like I don't know if I'm cultured enough to be
Richie, you
honest.
got the you got the leaks? Oh yeah, DM me, brother.
Mm,
Yeah, let me. They're in the server. Okay, cool.
yeah.
So I
Well,
wonder.
join the
Okay,
server.
man, I'm like so like bad with that kind of stuff. I kind of just like wait for people to just give me that information. I don't really search for it. So like by the time I found out that Jujutsu Kaisen, like had like early scans and shit, like motherfuckers had already been on that for like ever. Like I was
Mhm.
so late to that train. You know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
if, if we're already
Same.
getting early chapters for Ayashimon, I need that. I need that shit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If we got TCB scans or something like that, holla at your boy. You know what I'm saying? Hit my DMs with that. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Ayashimon, chapter 1. Loved it. Thanks for hanging out with us, you guys. This was our new episode of One Shots. We're glad that you guys were able to make it. Like we were saying a little bit earlier, if you were late to the stream or you couldn't stay for all of it, it will be on Patreon probably later tonight since we're recording it so early. I'll try to get on that like ASAP, but like tomorrow morning at the latest, and then it'll be on YouTube like 3 days later. So you guys can catch it there if you missed it here. But yeah, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Discord, or join the Discord or whatever.
Just
so
join
that,
the Discord.
yeah, just so that you can get like all of the updates and whatnot like right away whenever we're doing something like this or whenever we're doing any other kind of live content. Otherwise, everything is pretty much adhered to a specific schedule that you guys can find like a couple different places inside of our social media presence. So holler at your gwaller. We're gonna bounce. Oh yeah, shout out Artesian Builds. If you guys are in the market for a new gaming computer for the holidays, for example, check out Artesian Builds. We got a promo code Project Manga. We'll get you up to $200 off on that. And they got really nice shit. So take a look at their equipment
for your partner.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Holler at us. But all right, we're out of here. We'll hit you guys with some anime openings or something like that for the next couple of minutes before we really end the stream. But yeah, hit us up anywhere, man. This was a blast. A great conversation, Mello. And yeah, wrapping up. Knox.
Mellow Yenis.
We'll catch y'all next time.